Thank you so much for that.
How does it feel to know that you have done a lot and continue to do a lot?
Actually, it doesn't even feel like I do a lot until I do things like this, right? I just do what I do. And then I'm like, whoa, when you start saying, I'm like, oh, shoot, yeah, okay. But when I'm doing it, I'm just doing it, right? Because I'm in my element. But it feels good because it is my element. Because there was a time when I wasn't in my element and I was so miserable. So now I just embrace it all and I take it in and I just do as much as I can now because I feel like there was so much time that went by that I didn't do what I could have been or should have been doing, while recognizing that everything comes in the time in which it's supposed to come, if that makes sense. And I just told my husband, stop saying if that makes sense. But I understand, like, if that makes sense, because it's two things can be right at the same time, right? That it comes in your time, but when you reflect and realize how much time you wasted when you were young, thinking that you had forever, when you could have been doing so much more. So, yeah, now I just embrace it and I just run with it.
I love how we're starting, Darlene. It's already getting deep. You know, like,
Thank you. I'm glad you can appreciate that because there's some people who are like, "Oh my God, that's too much." So I'm glad that you understand that.
oh no, absolutely. Yes, can you please take us through, what you were doing before, when you realized you were wasting your time, how that came to be, and just when you were on the path to be more in your element.
Um, because I've had so many jobs and I've had great jobs, right? And my family was like, "You left that job?" But do you know that was, and it was just like I wasn't happy there. And I wasn't happy because I felt like my growth was stunted. And I felt like this world is so huge that you spend your time, and don't get me wrong, because I'm not putting down anybody who does work a 9 to 5 or 7 to 11 or 3 to whatever it is. That's not, if that works for you, that's fine. That's not where I'm at. I'm just saying that when you recognize how big this world is and how many people there are to encounter, and you keep doing the same thing day in and day out, I just don't think that we are made to do that. And I just did not feel comfortable doing that all day, every day. Um, but I didn't know how to frame it. I didn't know what to call it. I thought it was abnormality. Um, but it wasn't until I became a mom that I realized that, you know what? You're now responsible for another life. What kind of an example are you going to set? And what changes do you have to make? And it wasn't easy making those changes, right? But once I made them, it still wasn't easy, but it was more rewarding. And I felt like even with the rough times, I still felt at peace, even when there were financial troubles, even when it didn't look like it was the right way to go. There was still some kind of inner peace to say, you know what, keep plugging along. And I had to find out what that meant.
Hmm. Wow. So were those jobs that you were working, were those survival jobs?
Um, they were, yes, in a way, but they were also expectation jobs, right? Because your family expects a certain thing, right? And I was the first generation college. So now you're expected to do a thing. And if you don't, then you let the tribe down. You didn't take one for the team because you went to college to do what?
Hmm.
And I remember my mother one time saying to my dad, she said, "Oh my God, this girl done lost her damn mind." And I just felt like, boom, right? But then when I kept going on and kept going on, and the first time I was on the local news and I was being honored at some events, she was right there with her bragging right saying, "This is my daughter, that's my daughter." You know what I'm saying? So that end of it felt good. But had I not plugged through, I would have never been able to experience that, and she would not have been able to experience that because I would have got caught up in the has she lost her mind, because you went to college to do this, but you're doing this.
So what did
It
you
was like, I'm sorry.
No, you can go ahead. I want to hear what you were going to say.
So, because it was like it didn't match. It's like when you were young, it's like which one of these do not match in the pattern. So the pattern is go to college, get a degree, get a good job,
Hmm.
work that job forever, retire, and then live your life. And for me, that just didn't resonate well with me. Like, and then when I started looking at numbers and seeing that most people who do that, they live 3 to 4 years after they retire. So you've given your best years to someone else so that they can live their dream, and your dream was put on hold, and you had a window of 3 years in which to make it happen before you die. That to me didn't sound right.
Did you know anyone else who also had a dream that was bigger than the standard 9 to 5 or 8 to 3, whatever the case may be?
I knew a lot of people that had dreams, but that's where it stopped. They never pursued them because they had convinced themselves and others that they had good reasons that they shouldn't. So when, I'm first generation college, I'm first generation author, first generation business person, first generation single parent. I got some first generation good stuff, some first generation bad stuff, some first generation in between. So what that then means is that you become the trailblazer. And when you become the trailblazer, there is no trail for you to follow because you're blazing that trail, which now means people are looking at you like this girl done lost her damn mind. And in some cases, like in my mother's case, she'll say it. And if you're not careful, you'll believe it because it's your mother, right? So when certain people hold certain positions in your life and they say certain things out of love, you can become stagnant because you don't want to let the team down. So then you get expectation jobs and you live a life of misery. So now you're another generation of a miserable person.
Do you think those expectation jobs come from like families, for example, thinking that there are some dreams that are just too big?
Yeah, because guess what? You know what? You know, what is his name? Chris Rock. He made a joke, but it really wasn't a joke. And he said, black folks will put up their house and put up money to get Pookie out of prison, but not to help Pookie get a master's because their thing is you ain't the master of me. Because part of it is they don't understand, right? So they love you out of fear, and then they perpetuate that fear, and then it jumps on you because it's a spirit, and it jumps on you. You don't know when and where it comes from, but you know that now you don't want to be talked about. You don't want to be treated a certain way or mistreated, or no one else has done it, so you shouldn't either. And you get caught up into that whole group think, right? And the moment you are not caught in the group think, you're the outcast. And if you're not brave enough to become the outcast, then you suffer with the rest of the family. But the moment you become brave enough to become the outcast, you save potentially the whole family. At least those who want to be saved, because there will be some. Remember, Harriet Tubman had to shoot some of our people.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. And you could put it any way you want. You could put it on a Caucasian family with racism, right? Bless you. You may have some Caucasian folks who are racist, and you might have someone in that family who doesn't want to be racist, but the group think is to be racist. So they're gonna go with the group think even though they hate it. But then you might get one person who decides, I'm not going with the group think. Now they're the outcast. You can put it anywhere you want. It's all relevant,
Yeah, it's like what you were saying about blazing that path,
right?
as you say that.
There are no breadcrumbs.
And no breadcrumbs. And I like what you say too, because you might be the outcast, but you end up being, as you said, the trailblazer, the pioneer, because there are people, probably Darlene, I'm sure, in your family who have looked at your journey and are like, wow, see the success story of that. Has that happened?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I have had people in my family, immediate and extended, excuse me, and they have gone on to pursue certain things in their lives because, I gave them the courage to do that. Some admit it and some won't, and that's fine. I see that in, excuse me, even outside of the family. I see that in women groups, right? I see that with the Black Authors Festival. Like, I was originally going to start it on Martha's Vineyard. And then I decided, you know what, let me start it where I um, grew up on Long Island first, and then possibly take it back to Long Island. And then some folks that I was going to work with, they decided to start it on Martha's Vineyard. They didn't give me the credit. They came to try to get some more breadcrumbs about it. But that's fine because the thing is that as long as you're doing the work, that's fine. And maybe that is the work for you to do. And maybe that was the trail for me to blaze. That's fine. Just do the work.
There's a
Because
lot.
I know.
Yeah.
Because when you know that
Hmm.
you don't need validation from people. As long as God validates you and you have that peace when you look yourself in the eye and you have genuine peace, because there was a time when I couldn't look myself in the face because it was just a scary thing because I wasn't in tune with God. I wasn't in tune with who I needed to be. But now I don't have that. I can look myself in the face and I can look in the mirror and say, you know what? You're at peace. And when there are things that I need to change, then I'm going to work on changing them.
Wow. First of all, Darlene, tell us when these big dreams were placed within you. Being a phenomenal author, a literary advocate, launching the Black Author Festival, which is amazing. When do you recall
Thank you.
saying, yes, no problem, it's all true. Yeah, when do you recall that these dreams reached you?
Well, I can remember being really young. I don't know what age, saying that I wanted to write a book, and then just said it and just left it alone and never did anything about it because I didn't know that I could. I thought that was reserved for other people. So it wasn't like becoming a mom really opened my eyes to, and not immediately because, being a single mom, I was struggling and I was just like trying to make it through each day. Um, but then there came a point when I had to say, you know what kind of an example are you setting? And what kind of legacy would you like to leave? And raising a black male child, I needed to place in him that he needed one day to take hold of his own destiny, his own household, and do it with a boldness that's not cocky, but that is godly. So I would say that is the time when I just had this epiphany and I started trying things and I was like, hey, whoa, you know what? I could do this. I don't need permission. Just by me existing and it being in my thoughts is permission enough. Go ahead. And guess what? If it works, fine. If it doesn't, fine. Because there's some things that didn't work. I didn't die, thank God. But I learned that there were some things that I did that I liked, and there were some things that I did that I didn't like, or they weren't what I thought they were, or they weren't for me. But I had to do it to find out.
When you say that you knew that you had the interest in writing, telling stories, but you thought that that was something for other people. Tell us
Mhm.
more about what you mean by that.
So I thought that you had to be a certain kind of person, or you had to be from a certain kind of family, or you had to. I just thought that everything was outside of me. Um, And I can remember being very young and having, a problem with identity and saying like, who am I? am I good enough? Am I smart enough? Um, am I supposed to do this or am I to watch other people do it? And all of it was not, I wasn't able to process it the way I am now, of course. But I just felt like, and if it was meant to happen, it would just happen. Like I didn't have to exert any effort. It would just happen because it was meant to be. But then as life went on and I realized, nothing is just happening, right? You have to make it happen. And no, it's not for other people. It's for whoever is willing to put in the work, whoever's willing to sacrifice, whoever's willing to do the research to see what it takes. That's when I began to see that, you know what? You can do whatever you put. I just started doing all kinds of things. I started doing networking events. In fact, that's how I met my husband. I was doing my own networking event and I decided to take it to another place. I was doing them on Long Island. I decided, you know what, take them to Brooklyn. And I took them to Brooklyn, and people started coming and traveling to come from all over. I had one client who was traveling he was opening up his business. He was extending it to England. He flew in from England to come to a networking event in Brooklyn. I had a client from Paris, and it just started, they were pouring in. And one of my clients, he had a he had a friend that he told about the event, and his friend was coming on a regular basis. We knew each other for a few months, and then one day we started talking, and now he's my husband. So I say that to say that, when you truly mind your business and do the things that you are supposed to be doing, so many opportunities avail themselves to you. But if you are scared to take that step, then you miss out on so many of God's blessings. And I feel like so many people are like, oh, I'm waiting on the Lord. And God is like, listen, I've been did that. I'm waiting on you.
Mm, that's really deep. I'm waiting on you.
Yeah, it's like I did. Listen, I did that when I had that done when your grandmother's mother's mother was born. You just got to catch up.
So you felt the confidence. You gave yourself the permission to go after what your heart was in when you became a mother, right?
Right. Yeah. And that's it right there. I gave myself permission. I was waiting for permission from others. But then there came a point when I gave myself permission.
And does your son know that, by the way?
Oh, he does. He does because I took him everywhere with me. I used to be a college head volleyball coach for a women's team. And I didn't have a babysitter. And after school, I had to go get him, bring him back to the city with me. And he was my coaching assistant. And he now coaches on all levels. He coaches, he refs, he's a former professional athlete, and he coaches now. And he tells me, you know what, Mom, remember when you used to do such and such with the girls when they weren't doing right? He said, I do that with my kids.
How does that make you feel?
Oh, it brings tears to my eyes because I didn't realize what I was doing. I was just doing what I needed to do at the time because I didn't have childcare. So I'm glad I didn't have childcare because what would he have been learning from the babysitter? But instead, he was learning from his mother. And as a result, he's learned hard work, great work ethic. Um, yeah. And I want to say it was 2 or 3 Mother's Days ago, he gave me this card and it was handwritten. And he said, I just want to say thank you. Everything that you said was right. And I had to read it again. And I focused on one word, and that was everything. I said, everything? And I went up to him. I said, "You said everything?" He said, "Oh no, that was a typo." I said, "But this is handwritten." He says, "No, I'm just joking." He said, "I'm just joking. I mean, you were right about everything, Mom." And for me, that was worth more than all the money in the world. Because many times when you're parenting, you don't know if you're hitting the mark. You don't know if you're doing it right, especially when you're a single parent. You have no one to bounce things off of. And, my family was very supportive, but there were certain things they were not supportive of. They were like, oh, you're too hard on him, or you're this, or you're that. So I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna do this and wing it. Me and God are gonna wing it. And let's see what happens. Many times that's what it felt like.
And you succeeded. That outcome is just beautiful, I have to say.
You know, Out of all of the things that I've done, um, raising my son, I always say is the best thing that I have done because there was no blueprint for there was a blueprint because I mean, I take that back. My parents were great parents for the most part. They were great parents. Um, but they weren't single parents, so they couldn't relate to certain things. Um, and I couldn't talk to them about certain things as it related to single parenting because they didn't know what to tell me. So it was me and God. And there was some times when I felt like I didn't hear from God. I was like, am I doing this right? Am I messing it up? Because right now he's mad at me and I don't know how I feel about that. And then there were times when I was just like, well, you know what? He's not supposed to be my friend because I have to raise him. And now, we're cool and he's self-sufficient. He's married. And I have a daughter in love. So I feel like, you know what? Maybe I wasn't so shabby. And when he sends cards like that, then I'm just like, all right, I wasn't that shabby.
Love that. Love that. So when he was going around with you, what kind of work were you doing? You were putting together like the networking events. How did that come to be?
So that didn't come until after he was in college, the networking events. But the college, when I was working at a New York City junior college that's now defunct, actually. And the vice president of admissions hired me, and I oversaw the high school admissions department. And in us talking during the interview, um, I forgot now how it came up, but it came up that I played volleyball in high school. And he said, well, we're looking for a volleyball coach, and this is the last ditch effort. After this, um, the program is going to be defunct because we've never won a championship. The team pretty much sucks. The college doesn't want to give any more money toward this particular sport because it's just horrible. And I convinced them to give me one more shot. So I said, look, I played in high school. I'm several years removed at this point. So now you're asking me to coach? I don't know. And he said, you know what, give it a try, give it a try. And I said, okay. Well, we won all kinds of awards. We changed the spirit of the school. We got new uniforms, new equipment. We won the first championship, got to travel out to Long Island and play amongst folks. And FIT and BMCC were our rivals. They were the ones to beat. We started whooping the pants off of them.
That
And they paid for a trainer to come and train the girls. And we didn't have our own gym. So we went to another school. We went to the Ross School in the Brearley House to use their gym to practice. And they just started pouring money into the program because I turned that thing around because I was like, oh, I'm not going to be on the losing team. I'm not doing anything with the intention to lose, not ever, not me. And if we're gonna put my name on it, we're gonna work to change some things. And that's what we did.
awesome. Awesome. So how long did you do that for? Because I can imagine they
About
wanted you to stay.
Yeah, I did that for about 4 years.
Wow.
Yep, I did it for about 4 years. And it was awesome. And we were all over the city and we lost a few games, but at first when I first came on the scene, they were like, "Oh, there's that team. That's an easy two wins because you play each team twice, one at home and one at their home." So they automatically thought that that was an easy win. And I was just like, oh, I didn't say anything. I was like, okay, they could think whatever they want. And those girls whooped tail because I was like, oh no, that's not what we're doing. We are not losers. We are not losing. And if you do lose, you're going to lose because you gave it your all, not because you just laid down and allowed people to wipe their feet on you. That's not what we're doing.
So, would you say that you like have an athletic spirit at all?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I ran track, I played volleyball. I tried my hand at basketball. I was not very good at basketball at all. I was just tall. That was it. That was my only talent for basketball.
Did you like watching it though, or do you?
I did. Yeah, I did. And but I was horrible at it. But volleyball was my sport.
What is it that resonates with you about volleyball? Does
It
it
was
still
something
resonate,
different.
or was it more so back then?
It was more so back then. I will watch it occasionally now, but it was a new sport.
Mhm.
And, one day in high school, some friends and I, we were just like, let's do something different. And we decided to play volleyball. And some of us made it and some of us didn't. And I love serving and I love blocking. And I was tall enough to block. So it was just like, yeah, you're going to eat that. This, I'm on the front line, the ball ain't coming over the net. And I grew up
Mhm.
in an environment where we were very competitive in healthy ways. So we competed for good grades. We competed to win when, and we came out and supported each other. Like I'm friends with my husband always laughs at me. He says, "You're the only person that I know that still are friends, like good friends with your friends from third grade, because we all grew up close together." And we just had a class reunion this past July, well, July of last year, and he had met some folks before, but he really got to see us in our element, and he was just like, "Y'all are different." And we just grew up very competitive. Like, what, you let so and so beat you? Get out of here. So he was like, "What? No, we can't. Next time we gonna win. From here on out, we gonna win." So it just continued.
So does that help you at all, like with starting the festival? Which, by the way, when did you get that incredible idea to start the Black Authors Festival?
Because now I'm older, right? And I just feel like, let me answer that this way. Some years ago, I used to always give birthday parties for myself, and folks that I went to college with, they were um, party event, not party planners, but I forgot the name of it, that they
Voters?
give at clubs, at the
Oh,
promoters at the clubs, right? So they had all of these lounges for adults, and they would give parties and stuff. So whenever it was my birthday, my friends would get together, come down for my birthday, and we would go to those lounges. So one year, and I guess I was in my 40s, at beginning to mid 40s at this point, we went to one of the lounges, and the other adults in the club were young people who were 21 and 23. But these 21 and 23-year-olds are much different than we were, right? Like they dance on a table, they're half dressed. I didn't want to be in that atmosphere, but they were grown. So I said, you know what, darling, if there are no events that are tailored to who you are and who you're looking to be, then you have to create your own things. And then I saw that there were things going on, and I wasn't getting invited to sit at tables. So I said, you know what? You have to create your own table. What is it that you would like to see? So I really created the Black Authors Festival because, like I said, I was going to Martha's Vineyard. I was going to do it there first. Every year that I go to Martha's Vineyard, I always would do several book signings with myself and my authors across Martha's Vineyard. So I just decided, let's do a festival of it. But then when I decided to bring it to Sag Harbor, it was really just supposed to be something for folks to do who weren't looking to dance on tables half nude, something intellectual. And it began to grow into something much bigger than myself. and then that's when I started looking at this whole issue with book banning. And I had heard of book banning before, but I hadn't really paid any attention to it until it occurred to me that a lot of the books that are being banned are Black books. When I started pairing that with the work that I do, right? My husband and I, we work very closely together. He has a nonprofit, A Father's Love, which I'll tell you about that in a minute, but we go into schools and prisons, and we are all over working with young people. And one of the things that I've seen in my work and my work with him is that there seems to be this unspoken campaign about not helping our children learn how to read and comprehend, excuse me, and thwarting their education. I got to see that as a parent, and I was very strategic as to how I operated with my son and where I put him in school, and being very involved in the PTA, being very present with the teachers. But there are parents who don't have the wherewithal to do that. They don't have the resources and the support to do that, and they don't know. So you can't, when you don't know that you don't know, right? So I feel like it's incumbent upon those of us who do know to make sure that we sound the alarm so that the information can be there for those who don't know, so that now they can come into the know. And now we decide, how are we going to help those that need the assistance? So I came to the point where I said, listen, we're going to do this, and we're going to incorporate the whole book banning thing, because now we need to ban book banning. Because what we can't do is, we cannot sit by and have a blind eye to what's really happening to revert us back to chattel slavery, because that's one of the tenets, was not being able to read. So if we're failing our children in school, and when we start looking at the numbers, it's really our Black boys, because Black women are the most educated population, right? So if Black women are the most educated population, that means that our boys are suffering. And if our boys are suffering, then that means they're unable to take care of their families, support their families, and be effective within a family structure. And I'm saying no, not on my watch. I hope that answers your question.
Love that. Yeah, it definitely does. A lot of depth there to the story. Um, yeah, so that's when it's so interesting to see. Like this was supposed to be, like a hangout for intellectuals, who weren't really like into partying, and then it just grew beyond your dreams, right? And at
Well,
that
not so much not partying, but not partying in a certain kind of way. Like,
certain kind of way.
yeah, yeah. Because we want to have fun. We get older, we still want to have fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, so it was partying in the way of like tell us about that, what that looks like, the Darlene way of waking up.
More upscale, right? Sag Harbor is one of my happy places. I fell in love with Sag Harbor in Southampton many, many years ago. And my good friend, who is my son's godmother, she grew up out there, was born and raised out there, has family all throughout. So it became my family. And I just had a love for it. And it was just like a certain kind of calm and peace and serenity. And many years working with the Urban League of Long Island, I used to sit on their board for their signature event, Sunset in Sag Harbor. And the Breakwater Yacht Club was the venue. And it's just breathtaking out there. And I just remember not ever wanting to leave, and just watching the sunset over the harbor, and just being at such peace. And the world was just still for those moments. So I said, you know what? I feel like I want to capture that in my event.
And that's also like the sounds like the perfect reading environment as well.
It absolutely is. I mean, there are so many Black folks who have come out there to write. Langston Hughes used to go out there to write. And some years ago, I met one of the great grandchildren of Lewis Latimer, who invented the filament for the light bulb. And he said to me that the Edison family receives a percentage of every light bulb that's sold in America, and the Latimer family receives nothing. So I've had some great experiences out there. I've learned about our history out there. I've met some amazing people, and it's just been wonderful. So I wanted to kind of capture that with the Black Authors Festival, and I wanted to do it in a way with prominent authors. And we have now created a way that we can create a fundraiser. We are giving back to two nonprofits, A Father's Love, Personal Development and Community Services, and the Bridgehampton Child Care and Recreational Center, which is a historical site out there. And they do amazing work with marginalized children. So I'm happy to have partnered with Bonnie Cannon out there, who's the executive director. She's a gem, and the work that she does is amazing. So we want to raise funds for them to continue their work. And then my husband's company, A Father's Love, um, he is the impetus of the theme, the power of literacy. And he was a justice involved young man. Well, even before he became a young man, like when he was really young, like single digits young, he was involved in juvenile justice system. And he was illiterate. And he taught himself how to read when he was in prison. And he sat for his GED. He then tutored up to 200 inmates and helped them get their GEDs. And when he was released, he decided, you know what, I don't want to do this any longer. I don't want to be in the streets. And decided that he wanted to go to college. He enrolled in college and stopped when he got his master's with the distinction of summa cum laude. And he then went on to write a book, become an adjunct lecturer. He now has curricula in all of the juvenile justice facilities across New York City, including Rikers Island. He then furthered his work, but realized that he needed money, so he created a clothing line, and all of that money from his clothing line goes into the work that he does with young people. And he created a an independent film, well, actually three independent films, and the first one was nominated for an HBO ABFF award. And now he's finished. He realized that he wanted to do it from a clinical perspective, and now he is finishing this May. He will finish his second master's in social work from Columbia University. So the power of literacy is extremely powerful. And that's this year's theme because we want people to know what our young people can accomplish with literacy. So those are two organizations, I should say, that we are giving back to because we see the work that they're doing and we see the difference that they're making. And that's really what the Black Authors Festival stands for.
That's phenomenal. You and
Thank
your
you.
husband, you guys are just a power couple doing
Thank you.
amazing work. You're welcome.
Thank you. This is God's work because I have to tell you, the blessings that have, it started off one way, but the blessings that have happened as a result that were just, I just really believe that when you do what God tells you to do and you walk by faith, spirit, and word, not sight, sense, and circumstances, you are blessed beyond measure, but just by having the faith. Because if you go by what it looks like, oh, you're gonna quit. Because there's so many things in front of you that says you can't do it. And there's so many people on the sideline telling you you can't do it. Well, that's crazy. You can't do that.
You do mention faith a lot, and it's clear that you have it. So just like what are some of those ways that you practice faith?
Raising my son, having gotten married at 50, because I had already said I wasn't going to get married. I raised my son, he was going to be grown, and I'm just going to travel and just do me. That was it. The Black Authors Festival, like my life is a continuous faith walk because it just is. I just know that without it, there is no me.
Mm. Is that something that you encourage authors and entrepreneurs to be faith-based?
I don't, honestly, Jewel, I don't know how you can exist in any arena without it. It's hard with it. So I can't imagine what it's like without it. I don't want to imagine what it is. And I'm not talking religion. I am not talking none of that. I am talking about straight up relationship with God,
Hmm.
knowing the Lord and having, and that doesn't mean that you're going to be perfect. It doesn't mean that you have all the answers. In fact, there are a lot of, the more I know, the more I realize how much I don't know. But here's the thing that I do know, that Exodus 14:14, God will fight for you. And I truly believe that when you do what God has placed on you to do, everything else is already handled. You just have to have the faith that he got you. And I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that no matter what I go through, I know that he got me. And it don't matter what it looks like to other people. They may think, oh, you know what? Darlene lost. Darlene is failing. Darlene is, you could say whatever you want, feel however you feel, because I know that God got me no matter what it looks like to everybody else.
Now, I don't know about you, Darlene, but believe in having faith like in God, but then also the universe and ancestors. What are your thoughts on that?
So I believe that spirit is deep. And I do believe that ancestors, they are dead in the flesh, but their spirit is alive. And I believe that like spirit attracts like spirit. And I think that that's all enmeshed into how God operates. Now, in terms of how exactly it works, I don't know. But I believe that it is all enmeshed because I feel like we are all a part of the universe. But I don't believe that there was a time when I did, right? But I don't believe that I give praise to the universe because the universe is a creation of the creator. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I believe in giving the praise to the creator, which is the Lord, because the Lord has created everything. But still, I shouldn't say but, I want to say while having an appreciation for the creations.
Yes, so well put. No surprise. Yeah, because you probably heard people say like trust the universe, right? Trust the universe.
Right, right. Yeah. And I think that and there was a time when I would, I did. I believed in you know, I didn't know what I believed in, let's say that. I knew that there was something always greater than me, but I didn't know. I had questions. And I had typical questions, with regard to like in the Bible where it talks about slavery and and I still wobble with that, right? But here's my thing. There are so many things in the Bible, there are so many things in religion, there are so many things in faith walking that I still don't understand and still can't explain. But I feel like when the time is right, they will be revealed for me. But I have to walk by faith. And I feel like um, things come when you're ready to receive them and when you're ready to move on them and act on them and when you know what to do with them, right? So I liken it to when we were younger. and we wanted something to drink. You had to drink out of a sippy cup so you wouldn't just go like this and spill everything, right? So you needed that cover on it so that it comes out the spout and it goes in your mouth. But once you got to be 20, if you're drinking out of a sippy cup and you have all of your faculties, something's not right. So at some point, you have to graduate from using the sippy cup. But that has to be precise timing. And I feel like life is that same way. God is going to give you the sippy cup when you're the baby. And then when you are able to handle the regular cup, then that's when you're going to get the regular cup.
You also have me so curious, Darlene. Like, and people, okay, do you think that when people continue to stay at a job or a position that's not really something that they're passionate about, do you think by them sticking with that, that they are delaying what's really meant for them?
Absolutely. And not only are you delaying it for yourself, you're delaying it for others because your gifts, talents, and abilities are not for you, they're for other people. So if you become selfish in how you move with regard to who you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to contribute, then you deny others of indulging in what it is you're supposed to produce for everyone else.
Wow. Wow. So then what do you say to the people who say, oh, someone who's miserable in the workplace, they should not leave to pursue what they're really after until they have that next thing lined up because there's uncertainty and it costs money to live and things of that nature.
You know, I am maybe the wrong person to ask that, and here's why. Because I have always felt like if you get fired from a job, do they say, Jewel, we're going to fire you in 2 weeks, so get your ducks in a row? Or do they say, Jewel, today's your last day, pack your stuff, and we will escort you to your car? They usually say the latter, right?
It would,
And if you didn't, and if you didn't see it coming, you had nothing lined up. So I've always been of the mindset that you have to fire yourself. Fire yourself.
fire yourself.
Now, now, let me say this. There you have to be at peace with yourself. Don't go listening to Darlene because you know your life better than you. You also know the kind of person you are better than I do, right? So I'm the kind of person who I will have the degree and go work in Macy's to bridge that gap so that I would be happier there while I'm pursuing so that now I will have a mindless job, have access to discounts, and now can pursue what I was doing. In fact, I did just that. There was a time when I was doing my networking events, I was working at Coach. I left everything I knew and I was working at a Coach outlet because it was a mindless job. It paid decent money. I was an assistant store manager. It paid decent money. When I was off, I was off. I didn't have to work. I didn't have to worry about reports. I didn't have to talk to clients after the fact. It was done. And on weekends and weekdays or whenever it was, I was giving my networking events. I was printing up my flyers. I was going here and doing that, had meetings, doing whatever. So I have done that. But there are people who I say, do you have things or do things have you?
Mhm.
Right? So they will say, well, I have this, I have that, I can't do that. You don't have this, you don't have that, so you can do that. I love nice things, but I'm not for them having me. I want to have them. So my mindset is totally different. I'm a little radical. Some might say a lot radical, but I see things a lot differently. And I always know that no matter what, I'm going to survive. I'm going to make it. And I know how to I can become a minimalist when I need to. But if that's not who you are, if things have you, that might not be a good look for you. But that's an assessment that one has to make.
So why do you say you don't know if you were the best person or the right person to answer that question?
Because I don't want someone to be like, I'm gonna quit my job right now. I hate it. And they don't have everything it takes to do that. You know what I mean? Like it comes with more to it, right? So we see people who, how many stories have we read about or heard about on Unsung or a TV show, and we thought people were doing well, but they had the fame but not the fortune,
Yes, a lot. Hmm.
right? And how many times did we see people who had bad contracts and then they lost everything and they hit rock bottom and they didn't have what it took to get back on their feet and they then got on drugs or alcohol or whatever it is, right? So I don't want to be that person to say, yeah, do this and jump out the frying pan into the fire and let the chips fall where they may. No, I'm saying that it takes a certain kind of tenacity, a certain kind of faith. It takes a certain kind of thing, all encompassing. And it also takes the belief in yourself to know that no matter what, I'm going to survive. And if you don't have all of those things, then you might, and you're not willing to become all of those things, then you might have to stay at that miserable job until you find another miserable job or until you seek the right thing. But that's a conversation. Like, people say, oh, you crazy if you talk to yourself. I don't believe that at all. Self talk is extremely important. And when you're talking to yourself, you need to answer yourself sometimes too and say, girl, don't do that. You know that's not the right thing to do.
But I completely agree. Yeah. You have to hear yourself out, you know? I mean, it's
Yes,
also in a way of like expressing yourself as well.
right.
And like you
You're
said,
the expert of your own life.
there we go.
My husband tells me that all the time. He says, you're the expert of your own life. And nobody can tell Jewel what to do with Jewel's life. Nobody knows you like you besides God. Nobody, not even your mother. She can say, you know what, she has the propensity to do such and such, but at any point you can change your mind and say, no, I don't want to do that no more.
What have been any challenges that you've had to overcome with putting together the Black Author Festival and, and your favorite success stories of it so far?
Well, every year, we're embarking on the third year, and every year has had a life of its own. I thought that there would be a blueprint to follow, and there is no blueprint to follow, because each year gets bigger and better. And each year there's something that's different. And this year, well, last year really, I had like the ultimate betrayal. And um, it was just very hurtful. And I'm usually someone who sees things. Uh, and there were some things that I saw, but I ignored. And then there were some things that I didn't see and didn't expect. And it was very hurtful. And I had to endure, and I'm still enduring the aftermath of having trusted someone that I should not have trusted. So for me, that is, excuse me, that is extremely disheartening because overall, I like people and I want what's best for people, and I will do whatever I can to help people. Am I perfect? I am perfectly flawed, right? But one thing that I don't lead with is I don't lead with hurting people or trying to hurt people. I don't do that. So when it comes my way, it's very hurtful. And it can take me aback a little bit, but it doesn't take me aback to the point where it hinders my progress. It just makes me move forward more and with more force and fierce. Um, but then what happens is it then makes me shut down to trust from others, especially when it's close knit, right? So that now it's like you have your you have your core, and then they all have layers. It's like a bullseye, right? So certain people are allowed in the bullseye, and then others are allowed in different spots, and then there are folks who are in the nosebleed, if you will. So then when you get someone who was in the bullseye, but now you have to place them outside of the arena. They're not even in the nosebleed. It makes you feel away. I mean, it makes you have to re-examine, and it makes you rethink and restructure, which uses time. So that is one of the things that hurt most about the Black Authors Festival. With success, you have to take, it's like Nehemiah in the Bible, right? You have to build while you fight simultaneously. Nehemiah was building the wall with one hand and he was fighting with the other hand. And that's not specific to him. It's not specific to me. It's just what it is. So you pull yourself up by the bootstraps, know what you're dealing with, and you keep plugging along. But you also know that when you come to that fork in the road, you also know that you're coming closer and closer to success. You're coming closer and closer to your goal. You're coming closer and closer to the apex, right? And I always feel like there's never a pinnacle, it's always a higher level. But the higher you go, the thinner the air is. You have to prepare differently. What you did on one level is mediocre on another level. So after you get over the hurt, you dust yourself off and you just prepare for the next level. So that's where I am. And that was something that was, difficult for me, but I'm a trooper. I'm a trooper.
Oh, yes.
I
Mhm.
have to be. I don't have any other choice.
The festival, a lot of people go to it and the reception, the feedback is so positive from the authors that are there, to the events, like the panels that take place. What is probably like your biggest goal for attendees when they go to the festival?
So I'll break it down because each one has its own personality, as I shared. The first year, I wanted folks to come out. I wanted them to have an amazing time, and they did. So, check mark. The second year, I wanted folks to come out. I wanted them to have an amazing time, and I wanted it to be elevated. I learned how to become like the ultimate hostess from my mom. I used to see when they used to give events in the house or in the backyard, and how my mother was like the ultimate hostess. So I wanted to be the ultimate hostess. And my first year, I was able to honor my big sis, my good friend Casey Duke. And Casey is like, she is very precise, very detail oriented, and she pays attention to things. So I was just like, she was floored. She, hands down, she had an amazing time. So I knew that it was a good thing, right? My mom had great things to say about it. My husband, who is very, check off things, and he's like, and he tells me, he says, listen, I'm gonna let you know. And he does, right? He was like floored. So those boxes were checked. The second year, we had to up the ante. And when Tamron Hall and Marcus Samuelson, Ralph McDaniels, like the heavy hitters came, I was just like, oh gosh. They came and they had an amazing time. We made some mistakes, but overall, bless you. Overall,
Thank you. Mhm.
folks had an amazing time. They got to interact with Tamron and Marcus and Ralph and the other honorees. Checkbox. This year, I want that and more. This year, I'm working with elected officials to work toward writing legislation against book banning. We are declaring August as Black Authors Festival Month. I want to be able to raise money for the two nonprofits. I want our ambassadors because every year we have ambassadors. We have young people who come and volunteer their time. We give them community service credits. We feed them. We give them a certificate. They have excellent networking and they learn great work ethic. I want that for the ambassadors again this year because I believe in young people and I believe in investing in them. And I believe that a lot of my success came from folks who invested in me. I had my mentor who has since passed on. She was so amazing that I didn't even know that she was volunteering. I thought that was her job that she got paid for. My other mentor who is still alive, I just spoke with him the other day. He's 85 years old. I thought it was his job because they were so committed and they did not play. And when they said something, it was as if my parents said it. And my thing was, you're not going back to my parents saying anything negative because then that was another punishment, right? So they need to have great things to say. I want that for young people today. And I feel like too much of that is missing, that too many young people are navigating in spaces that they should not be navigating. They have a lot of wisdom, not wisdom. They have a lot of knowledge, but not enough wisdom. And that it's like putting the cart before the horse. So in order to match that wisdom with their knowledge, once you pair those two, they could be brilliant. But if they lack certain basic foundational attributes, then we're putting the cart before the horse. So I want the Black Authors Festival to be a catalyst to helping solidify their foundation to all of the knowledge that they have because they have access to a lot of knowledge, but many times they're not mature enough to ingest it and know what to do with it.
Do you ever get any feedback from youth about, your efforts and your contributions?
Oh, absolutely. I still have mentees that are grown. They're women. They have children now. They inbox me all. In fact, that is how I got to be on social media. They were like, I'm going to college. So if you want to know what I'm doing, you better get a Facebook account. And
Yes.
I was like, I don't want to get on Facebook. They were like, okay. And I got on Facebook. I was like, you can't do that. They were like, you can't put that on the Facebook page. You got to inbox me that. And I was like, oh no, I'm putting it on your Facebook page because I need all your friends to know you shouldn't be doing that and dressing like that either. And they were like, please stop. And I said, then stop doing it. And I won't put this on your Facebook page and don't erase it. And now as grown women, they are like, oh my God, I love you so much. I raised my quick story. One of my son's friends, she was a girl and I did not like her. I
Okay.
don't make it a habit of not liking children, but her I did not like. She knew it, her mother knew it, my son knew it, everybody knew it. Did not like her. And she did not like me. When my son got engaged, she came to the engagement and she pulled me to the side and she said, thank you so much. She said, I know you didn't like me. I didn't like you. She said, but I find myself as an adult saying so many of the things that you've said, doing so many of the things that you've done. She said, I find myself, I'm you. She said, and I don't know how I got here. She said, but what I do know is that it works and you were so right. She said, there were times when my mother didn't tell me the right thing and you told me the right thing. And I'm so thankful to you. We cried, we laughed, we hugged. I love her. She loves me. I apologized to her. But I told her, I said, sorry, not sorry. Because I knew, I used to always tell my son, my mentees, I'm the eagle on the mountain. You are the pigeon in the valley. You don't see what I see. So your decisions are not going to be the same as mine. So when I swoop you up, I'm not asking you, can I do it? I'm doing that because I see the bulldozer that's coming down to cut down the mountains, and you're going to be cut in that process. So I'm swooping down to save you and protect you. So when the bulldozer moves, you will be planted back into safety. Only I can see that on the mountain. You can't. Don't have time to explain it now. You'll thank me later. Because here's what I'm not going to live with, Jewel. I'm not going to live with knowing what I know, seeing what I see, doing nothing to have you like me. And then later you say to me, well, if you knew all of that, how come you didn't protect me from that? And you had the power to do so. I'm never going to live with myself doing that. What I will live with is you saying, oh, I see it now. Thank you. That's how I want to live my life. That's how I raised my son. That's how I interacted with my mentees. And every single one of them come back to me now and they say thank you.
And on that note, Darlene Williams. Darlene Williams, thank you for what you do. You are so booking cool and beyond. And we're definitely looking forward to the festival. It's on August the 2nd, right?
Yes,
Yes, at
yes.
Sag Harbor. Beautiful, peaceful place and also historical. How can people keep up with you? What's the best way for them to do that?
Our website is blackauthors.festival.com. We are on Instagram at Black Authors Festival. You can also email us at National Black Authors Festival at Gmail, National Black Authors Festival at Gmail. And we are happy to answer any questions that you have. Get your tickets. Last year was sold out. This year will be as well. Um, yeah, we just brought on a phenomenal DJ. I don't know if you've heard of DJ John Quick from BLS. He is our official resident DJ here on out. So we have some amazing things happening. This year is the first year that we are honoring a youth author. So I'm extremely excited about that. She is a dynamite 14-year-old. Oh my gosh, she and her mom are phenomenal. And yeah, we're looking to have a party with a purpose.
Guys,
And
definitely.
thank you, Jewel, for interviewing me. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person and us having a really good time at the festival. And just, we're going to do some work, but we're going to have some fun. We're going to raise some money. We're going to have some fun. Everything we do, fun is going to be intertwined.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Agree with everything that you just said. Definitely looking forward to meeting you in person and also like would love to have you on again in the show, like for anything else that you have going on and your husband as well. You guys have
Thank you. Definitely. Let's arrange that. I would love to have him speak to you. And thank you so much. Anytime, it's my pleasure and honor to be on your show. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you to all the viewers and listeners. Until next time, so booking cool.